a AA battery, and it's good for about 20 treatments, and each
Batteries not included.
Right, but each treatment is actually 25 minutes, can be done any time of day or night. Through the nasal cavity, it will go up into the inferior part of the frontal lobes, and that part of the brain is connected to the part of the brain called the hippocampus, which is important for memory.
Yes.
And memory is what we also saw significant improvement on with the dementia patients in Toronto, Canada. Yes, a target-rich environment to help with memory for the brain. And we use this in our Gulf War illness research, and Dr. Jeffrey Knight will be using it with his traumatic brain injury PTSD cases also. This one is 633 nanometers, 633 nanometers, and it's obviously visible red.
Yep.
Now, it will penetrate direct energy about a millimeter.
Okay.
So it's very shallow, but it's enough to get in the nasal mucosa and up into the inferior brain. Qi light. Qi light, that's a Chinese word, qi. I can show you that it's simple to operate if you had to change the battery.
Oh, it's marine-proof.
Simply a AA battery. Nothing could be easier to put on there. And that's good for about 20 treatments. As I said, each treatment is 25 minutes. Over here is a different wavelength. You can see it's actually written on here, 810, 810. That's near infrared. Now you know it's on.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's invisible to the naked eye. Even a Marine sniper cannot see this.
And this will go deeper. It will go a centimeter or so, likely to get to other inferior parts of the frontal lobe.
Now, the question that the viewer has right now is, why do we have one we can't see and one we can see as a Christmas light? Why are the two different frequencies seem to be beneficial?
They're both used because we want to deliver the two peaks of wavelengths that the cells can take up. The mitochondria can take in red wavelengths and near-infrared wavelengths.
Okay.
So we want to catch both of those peaks in the mitochondria to make more energy and adenosine triphosphate, ATP. It's the battery pack for cellular function, oxygenation, respiration. And the issue is that damaged cells, but they're not dead, they're just low on oxygen, and they can hang around for decades. They particularly need these two wavelengths. But basically, when you use these, we have imaging studies we could show you that show that parts of the brain work better together after we've used these. We get improved memory and cognition and thinking after we use these, especially when we combine it with the headpiece. Okay, this is something called V-Light Neuro 2, and it is something that we place on the brain, or on the head, I should say, to treat the most important parts of the brain networks that are not functioning well in traumatic brain injury or Gulf War illness or post-traumatic stress disorder. So this goes on the high forehead in the middle, and then this back here goes on the high parietal lobe in the middle, the midline. So these two are particularly important. And then we have, the hippocampus is very deep in the temporal lobe, is particularly to connect the center front here with the high parietal here, because these two nodes are not coordinated temporally when there's brain damage. So I'm trying to connect these two to bridge the gap and get them coordinated. They need to be in a coherent temporal sequence. And in traumatic brain injury, PTSD, they're not communicating. And my goal is to get them communicating, because once these two can be communicating, the rest of the brain, where your thinking goes on, can start to activate. For example, if you were in a car accident and you had whiplash, or you're a football player and your brain got twisted,
still a traumatic brain injury.
These connections, anterior and posterior, are damaged. They're no longer communicating well. And so our goal is to get these back together, working together. In someone who has a lot of brain damage, the front part and this high parietal part are not communicating well, and they're overactive. They're way up here somewhere. But the frontal lobes, the rest of the frontal lobes cannot kick in to do thinking and attention unless you can get these communicating here on the midline and down. They need to deactivate so the rest of the brain can activate. This is called the default mode network, and by default, it has to be working properly. The default mode network must be working properly, and it's overactive in PTSD, traumatic brain injury, Alzheimer's disease, dementia, Parkinson's, and even in autism, it's overactive. And I have some cases in Los Angeles and down in Georgia where the family is using a device similar to this, and the children are starting to talk. And one mother was so excited, she said, "Oh, I love this work. My son no longer bites me when I hug him." And we can't forget the hippocampus, which is a fifth part.
I was on that campus, yes.
On this device, and it's the fifth part of the default mode network. So that means the hippocampus, which is very deep in the medial temporal lobe, and you can't get there easily from out here. Right, exactly, especially in Boston. So we use the near infrared.
That's what we're talking
I wanted to just do one thing, because you don't know this, but I want to tell them, everybody at the same time. I want him to know this. We have a new research program. They're his nose clips, but they're sitting in a filing cabinet up there in my office doing nothing. So now I have permission from the Boston VA Institutional Review Board to get your nose clips out, test you with neuropsychological testing, give you your nose clips to keep forever for the rest of your life. And we do ask that you come back and see us after you've used the nose clips 5 days a week at home for 25 minutes, for neuropsychological testing after 6 weeks, and then again after 12 weeks. And then you're free.
I'll tell you, coming into the Boston VA 5-6 years ago was an unintended gift. It was the best thing I ever did for myself since I came home.
Well, thank you. I hope you know you enjoy those and use those, okay?
Oh, they'll be used.
All right.
All right.
So this is the Neuro 2 that we just saw with the cranial support mechanism, the headset, if you will.
Light Neuro 2, and that was the device used with the 5 dementia cases in Toronto, which is now in press in the Journal of Photomedicine and Laser Surgery. But this is for the future. Great potential for home treatment, and I see that as the future.